In Bible prophecy. We've been talking about the book of Revelation, and we were in chapter 7 last week, and I want to make a clarification, Liz, on the, we were talking about the martyred saints, and the Bible says here that they get robes. Well, I thought they were mingled with blood, but their robes are not mingled with blood. There is a thought that the sea of glass over later in the book of Revelation that is amber colored and whatever color that's with it may represent that group of people. But the thing that distinguishes the martyred saints from the church is they have a palm branch. So remember that. That's where John asked, he says, Revelation 7 verse 13. And these are the elders answered, saying to me, who are these arrayed in white robes, and where did they come from? And I said to him, Sir, you know. So he said to me, these are the ones who come out of the great tribulation. So these are tribulation saints. And washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. Therefore, they are before the throne of God, and serve him day and night in his temple. And he who sits on the throne will be dwell among them. They shall neither hunger any more nor thirst any more. The sun shall not strike them, or the heat. For the Lamb who is in the midst of the throne shepherd them and lead them to living waters, and with every tear. So this group is a different group. The church is already in heaven. The church is in white robes of righteousness that Jesus has imputed to us, and we are not held under the golden altar. We are in the activities of heaven once we get there. And this group, when they die on the earth, their spirits and souls go to the golden altar over in Revelation chapter 6. And they're held there until the time when they are released out to get into the activities of the heavenly company. And this is when they've been released, and he asked them, who is this group? Where'd they come from? Well, these are the tribulation saints. That tells me one thing, because that tells us that the church that's in heaven won't know what's going on in the tribulation of the earth. So they don't even know who are tribulation saints. They won't know if they had loved ones or anything that became tribulation saints. They won't even know that. We're in heaven. They're in the earth, going through all the judgments of the earth. They decided not to take the mark of the beast. They chose Christ. They were beheaded for the word of their testimony. And the moment they're beheaded, their spirit and soul ascends to heaven and is under the golden altar and kept there in heaven until a time when God releases them out. And then they will enter into the activities of heaven. But they will be different. I think it's somewhere else it says they have a palm leaf, and they have a white robe with a palm leaf. And that distinguishes the tribulation saints from the church company. Let me tell you, the church company is the best company to ever be in. We are the bride of Christ right now. We are the espoused, betrothed bride of Christ right now. There are special privileges being in church right now. Church began on the day of Pentecost. It will end with the day the trumpet sounds and the rapture of the church. And in that company, every person that's in that, and it says when the fullness of the Gentiles has come in, and even the last Gentile who will accept Christ, the last Jew that will accept Christ, when that point gets to that point, God sends his son to pick up the bride. And, Linda was talking about the rapture the other day, and we've looked up several different words on that. One is repatio, one is harpazo. Really, that repatio, I believe, is the one that says snatched. It means to be snatched. Yeah. And Jesus comes and snatches the church out of the earth. That's his bride, which will become his wife. And remember that God had a wife, Israel. That marriage ceremony took place on Mount Sinai. when he made his covenant with Israel and gave them the 10 commandments. However, they got into such idolatry, God divorced his wife. So Israel is in a state of divorcement right now. But he will take them back in the millennium. And that's a promise through Hosea and other prophets, Jeremiah, that he would take them back, take her back. And so God wanted his son to have a wife too. And his wife is the church. And the church company is held in very high esteem, particularly in heaven. The Son of God's wife, and it's called the marriage supper of the Lamb, not the marriage supper of the wife.
Right.
Normally it would be the marriage supper of the wife and not the marriage supper of the Lamb. But the emphasis is on the Lamb and not the wife in heaven. And this event will happen in Revelation 19. And I'll say this, from Revelation chapter 4 to Revelation 19, the church is never mentioned again. The church is already in heaven. So, chapter 4 of Revelation, when he says, after these things, after what? After the church age. The 7 churches of Revelation are different characteristic churches of the church age. When the church age ends, the church is taken out in heaven until Revelation chapter 19, when we see the wedding ceremony. And the bridal, it says, Revelation 19:7, blessed are those that are called to the marriage of the Lamb. And in the marriage, there's going to be in Israel, they had a marriage supper. You might remember in The Chosen, they had it. If you saw who also saw that, the marriage of Cana, which is of all that series, that was one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. But they have a celebration for 7 days. Well, the church is going to be in heaven for 7 years. 1 day a year of tribulation. 7 years in heaven will be in heaven, while the activities of the earth are going on. Now, what we're reading about now is what are the activities going on in the earth. And we're going to really get into it in chapter 8 through 11 will be the trumpet judgments. We just looked at what the seal judgments were. They were the 4 horses, the apocalypse. The white horse is the Antichrist. The red horse was war. The black horse was famine. The pale horse is death and hell that reigns. 1/4 of the entire population of the earth dies from all this. Then the 5th seal was cataclysmic changes, such as earthquakes and things that hit. But the 6th seal was the souls under the altar. And then the 7th seal is the way now think of a Roman candle. This is the best way to think about the way this works. When you had a Roman candle, in the old days when I used to watch fireworks and stuff, there would be, let's think it this way, there'd be six boom, boom, boom. And then on the 7th one, it would come up and it'd go boom, and it'd be a whole different looking thing. Boom, boom. It'd be 7 different looking things in these Roman candles. Well, that's what's going to happen here. The 7th seal leads into the first trumpet judgment. And there'll be a lot of things that happen. And then there's going to be silence in heaven for about 30 minutes. And there's going to be some things. Why? Because the devastation there is going to be so bad with what's going to be going on. As these judgments are poured out in the earth. I'm telling you right now, if you don't know Jesus Christ today is the day to sign up and get on his team. Because I promise you, if you get left behind in the earth, it's going to be hell on earth. Yes. Let's just talk about a few words that represent tribulation. Number one is the wrath of God. Yeah. The indignation of God. The punishments of God. The judgments of God. All of these things are things that are going to be going on in the earth while the church is in heaven. And there's a lot of promises where, I'll give you, Revelation 3:10 is one, and 11, where the church will not go through the wrath. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse I think 10, says the church will not go through the wrath of God. So these are promises that the church has that we won't be going through this. And I'm not going to believe that the church is going to go through the first 3.5 years of it and then get taken out. I don't believe that the church is going through the 7 years of it and then at the last get taken out. I mean, it's like if the church is going to be married to Jesus, this is a real good explanation. If the church is going to get married to Jesus, why would Jesus send his church, his wife, his bride, through the tribulation, get a great big black eye, come up to the heaven and get married?
That's right.
That is stupid. And use common sense. Jesus has got to get God has got to get the church out of the earth so that all the things that are prophesied in the book of Revelation can come to pass. Because Revelation 17 says, I'm going to show you this. Let's go to Revelation 17. I'm going to give you a verse here. Verse 17. For God has put into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind and to give them a kingdom to the beast, until the words of God are fulfilled. In other words, God's word has to be fulfilled. So all these events have to happen to fulfill God's word. If the church is in the earth and the Antichrist is revealed, then the church can pray and bind up the Antichrist. That's what we're doing right now.
Right.
The church is in the earth right now binding the spirit of Antichrist.
That's right.
Because Paul said in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, the spirit of Antichrist was already at work. So the spirit of Antichrist is already at work. That's why Jesus said the church is the salt and the light of the earth. Can you imagine what the earth would be like if the church wasn't in it right now?
Oh, yeah.
Even though we're only about 30% of the entire population of the world, Christians, but that 30% is the salt or the purifier that keeps this total degradation in immorality and all the things going on at bay. Now think about this. If you were born when I was born, there couldn't be, in the movie, there could not be one curse word.
That's right.
There couldn't be anything explicit with a woman or a man.
Twin bed.
Because why? It was all rated G. and everything was G. And I remember the first time I saw a movie star smoking a cigarette. They started allowing that, but that was for a long time, that was a no-no. You couldn't even do that. And but the reason I think that happened was because during the war, almost everybody smoked. And my dad told me that when he was on ship, on those carriers, that once a month you got a little package, and you had two packs of cigarettes in it, Lucky Strikes and Camel. That's all they had. Then you got chocolate bars. You got a bunch of chocolate bars. Then you got some cookies, and you got other things, a little back. Well, what did you do if you didn't smoke? You traded your cigarettes for money. You bartered with your cigarettes for other things. And so, but most of the guys, Dad said, smoked cigarettes to keep them awake. Because when they were in air operations with the Japanese, they went 24 hours a day. And they had to have coffee ready. They had to have food ready. Those pilots would go out. They'd come in. They'd eat, drink coffee, smoke cigarettes, get in a plane, fly right back out. And they had to stay awake. And some of those missions, I was just watching the P-38 missions that they were flying out of New Guinea. Those are 4-hour out and 4-hour back operations, looking for Japanese planes and ships. And I mean, just now think about what these guys did that went to Iran. 38 hours in the cockpit. B-1 took off in Missouri and flew all the way to Iran. Dropped the payload, turned around and flew all the way back. And they had to be refueled about 3 or 4 times. that is the most dangerous part of those missions, is being refueled. And not getting discovered when you come in with rockets coming up or something. So, you know, you have to go through a lot of training to be able to sit in those cockpits. And in Germany, when we flew out of, the 8th Air Force flew out of England, those were, on those B-17s, they were like 6 hours out, 6 hours back. Every time they went out, it was about 12-hour flights. And then if they went into Germany deeper, they were 15 hours out and back. And the probability of a man doing 25 missions and surviving was like 25%. You had to fly 25 missions before you could go home. And that was some dangerous stuff. I don't know how they put them. Well, I'll tell you why. They were 18, 19, 20-year-old guys.
That's why.
And they didn't know any better.
That's right.
And they just got in a plane and flew.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get an older guy to get in there and say, "No, I got family, I got kids, I got car payments, I got housing." You couldn't get one of them to get in there now. Those young kids had nothing. They had zero. And they would get in there and fly those airplanes, and it was amazing what they did. It was absolutely amazing. And it was the air war that prepared the way for the ground war that eventually went into Europe. Just think of the freedoms that we enjoy in America. What it took, the lives it took. I mean, a bomber crew in a B-17 was 10 guys. If you went out one day and you lost, let's say you lost 10 planes, you lost, how many men did you lose? 100 guys in one day. And that's why a lot of the pilots didn't want to get to know too many of the people, because they would be eating breakfast with them that morning and then they would be gone, never see them again. Well, let me tell you, during the tribulation, it's going to be a tough time on the earth for lots of people. And that's why today is the day of salvation. Paul kept preaching it. Well, the day has not changed. Today is the day. Don't get left behind and have to go through this mess that's going to happen to the earth. Okay, let's go to chapter 8. Now let's read down a little bit. This is the seventh seal, the prelude to the eighth trumpet, or the first trumpet judgment. And when he opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven for about half an hour. Now, nobody really knows, but Hilton Sutton wrote in his book that he believes that the trumpet judgments are going to be such a step up in punishment and judgment that God wanted to give the earth a 30-minute silence before anything happened. So about 30 minutes, and then he said, "And I saw the seven angels who stand before God, and to them were given 7 trumpets. Then another angel, having a golden censer, came and stood at the altar." Do y'all know what a golden censer is? A censer is a big round deal like this. It's usually has a chain on it, and they put incense in it. The Catholics still do that. I mean, they walk down there and they're doing that. You know, they have the incense and all that. You know, of all the religions, it's the Catholics that are more like the old Jewish religion than all the others. So they still do a lot of those things. They're putting those great high priestly robes, and they wear mitres and stuff like the high priest of the Jewish times did. Then another angel, as I said, had a golden censer. He stood before the altar, given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Now, that golden altar that has all those souls in it is before the throne of God. Notice here it said, the prayers of the saints. Do you realize that every time you pray a prayer, it's saved in heaven? Every prayer goes from your lips to God's ear, and it's saved in heaven. All prayers are saved. And then what happens? These angels go over and they put the censer under the golden altar, and it grabs up the prayers of the saints like an incense. Look at this. And he says, given much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar, which is before the throne. And the smoke of the incense with the prayers of the saints. ascended before God from the angel's hands. So now let's see what's going to happen when these prayers and this incense goes before the throne of God. Now, the question is, I want to ask you, are these the prayers of the church, or are these the prayers of the tribulation saints?
How about the church?
Well, I think it is the prayers of the church that are being held. Then the angel took the censer, filled it with fire from the altar, and threw it into the earth. And there was noises, thunderings, lightnings, and an earthquake. So the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. Wow. Just think, we're going to be in heaven when these trumpets are sounded. Oh, by the way, our saint in our church, Merle Truesdale, just entered the portals of heaven yesterday. I had been down on Friday afternoon. She looked really great. I mean, she'd had a surgery done. She was ready to get out of that hospital and get back home. And you know, the doctor said, well, you're going to have to go do some rehab. And she said, well, I hate going to rehab. I want to go home. And, you know, so we read her favorite Psalms. We read Psalms 23, 121, 27, and Isaiah 43. I shall not fear. Isaiah, you know, there's 6 times, fear not, and fear not, fear not, fear not. Even though I walk through the waters, I will not drown. Even though I walk through the fire, I will not be burned. Those are the fear nots. That's why we should never fear not. 6 times God says, fear not. And then I got a call early yesterday morning, and Yvonne told me that Merle had passed out of the earth into the heavenly realm. And then I talked to Tom, her son. Now, I don't know when the arrangement's going to be, but we're going to do here at the church, so sometime this week, whatever the funeral home, I think Harper's going to be doing the funeral. Then the angel took that censer, filled it, and threw it into the earth, and the 7 angels who had the 7 trumpets prepared themselves to sound. So let's look at the first trumpet. The vegetation is struck. The first angel sounded, and hail and fire followed mingled with blood. And they were thrown into the earth, and 1/3 of the trees were burned up, and green grass was burned up. So you're losing all your trees and all of your grass. Son, you won't be here for that. You'll be in heaven. I don't want to scare you. All this is happening, but you're not going to be here.
That's right.
Yeah. The second trumpet was the Caesar struck. Then the second angel sounded, and something like a great mountain burning with fire was thrown into the sea, and 1/3 of the sea became blood. Now, I think that was a meteor. It was a giant meteor. They called it a great mountain burning, but it probably is so large, it looks like a mountain, but it's a meteor. Can you imagine what will happen on the earth if a meteor hits the oceans? That big? And it makes the whole sea turn red, like blood. And it becomes blood. Do you remember when Moses took his staff and put it in the Nile River and it turned into blood? It didn't turn red, it turned into blood.
Yes.
And why when we get over to the last 10 last 7 judgments, I believe, or 10 judgments. No, 7 judgments, because 10 judgments were poured out on Egypt. But when we get to the last 7 judgments, the bowl judgments or vial judgments, almost every one of those judgments is what God poured out on Egypt when Moses was there. Here we see a 1/3 of the sea becomes blood. And 1/3 of the living creatures in the sea died. And 1/3 of the ships were destroyed. Well, I can tell you right now, that is something. That is really something. When people start seeing these results of all this, can you imagine what's going to happen when 1/3 of all the sea animals die and start floating to the top of what the smell's going to be like in the world? Okay, the 3rd trumpet, the waters were struck. The waters were struck. a great star fell from heaven. Now, another one, I have written down here, an asteroid may have fallen, burning like a torch, and it fell on a third of the rivers and on the springs of water. And the name of the star is wormwood. Now, wormwood is the word for bitter. And there's a plant called wormwood. And it turns everything real bitter. A third of the waters became wormwood, and many men died from the water because it was made bitter. Well, it explains itself right there. So now, think about this. The seas are going to be polluted. All the rivers are going to be polluted with this wormwood. They're going to have a hard time finding water to drink. And then the fourth trumpet. Then the fourth angel sounded, and a third of the sun was struck, and a third of the moon, and a third of the stars, so that a third of them were darkened, and a third of the day did not shine, and likewise the night. So it got real dark. But it's not as dark as it's going to get. Because when it gets over to the bowl judgments, it's going to be totally dark. They won't be able to see anything. And I looked, and I heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, because of the remaining blast of the trumpet of the three angels who are about to sound. Now, we're going to stop right there because we're going to have three woes. And you're going to see why it's woe. It's going to be bad. We'll start in 9 next time. So these are the three woes. And then we will move into a kind of a parenthetical chapter of 10, the mighty angel with the little book. And that's Jesus. I believe that's the angel Lord is Jesus. He takes back the title deed of the earth, I believe in Revelation chapter 10. You know, Satan still has the title deed of the earth. And he's got a lease on it. And Charles Capps, who was a farmer, knew a lot about leases and things. He leased out a lot of his farmland in Arkansas. And so he knew about leases and what rights the farmer had when he had a lease. And Charles would say that when he leased his land out to a farmer, the farmer had a right. They would agree on what was planted, but the farmer had rights to how he wanted to do it, how he wanted to raise the crops. All he had to do is either pay sharecropping was 50%, or they would say, we're going to, all my crops, you get 25% of all the crops that are. So these men leased out their land. And so so what happens is Satan has the lease on the earth. And God allows him to do whatever, as a leaseholder, he can do. He's allowed to do certain things because of the fall of the earth and Adam. See, God, when he created Adam and Eve, he gave them the title deed of the earth. He gave it to them and told them to go and replenish the earth. That word replenish is big. It's a big word. It's in the old King James. Replenish the earth. How do you plenish something that wasn't already plenished? So that's a big hang-up for people that don't believe in the gap theory or the pre-Adamite period. But anyway, he had the lease on the earth. He and Adam and Eve. But what they do? They went and handed the title deed of the earth over to Satan. They got deceived and they fell and they didn't obey God and His word. And then what happened? Sin and death ended up reigning. Romans 5:12 tells us, from that point on, sin and death has reigned. So what did God do? In His great plan of redemption, He had to send His Son to reverse all that Adam and Eve lost. That's why Jesus is called the last Adam. Everything was lost in the first Adam, but everything and much more is gained with the last Adam. So Jesus came and reversed all that and gave us much more. It's in Romans chapter 5. You can read it. Thank you for joining us. God bless you.